Dark side of the stream, Mike the Intern and Jay Stevens. Watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio for Dark Side of the Stream, episode 226.
Somewhere
this
around
week. It's called...
Twister, Caught in the Storm.
That's right! The Twister, Caught in the Storm.
Look at me being professional this morning.
It's on Netflix, and I just looked it up, and I still couldn't remember it. It just details the tornado that, if you were living in this part of the country... you definitely remember what happened.
Yeah,
you weren't here yet.
I was not here
yet. You weren't here yet.
No.
This was pre-J, like we call it.
PJ, the Missouri timeline of PJ.
Not BC,
the cave
BJ.
timeline of PJ.
We call it BJ.
BJ before J. BJ makes total sense.
Yeah, in reference to him, BJ is the perfect. But this
Before
was BJ.
J.
This was BJ, and at the time, I guess I'll tell my own personal story. I was an intern. I wasn't an intern. I was doing the morning show at this point.
You're still an intern, by the way.
Still an intern, but I'm trying to think of like what my roles were. But I know I was doing the morning show. But at the time, we were still doing like severe weather coverage, which means that we had a rotating schedule of jocks that would have to be on call for a 7-day period. Which I argued that's not very fair for the guys that have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you call me in at 9 or 10 o'clock at night to do weather coverage. We might want to rethink this. Yeah. But obviously that fell on deaf ears for a while until I came to a position where I actually had some weight around here and say, no, that's what we're going to do now. Because it's, but anyway. So at the time we had weather coverage and I was on call and along with the former program director of Q102 and the way it would work was if anything hit Lawrence, which was like the Joplin or was coming to Lawrence, we would then get notified and it was like, hey, you got 30 minutes, get in there. It's looking like it's coming this way.
Okay.
And so we get the report that it's coming in and then her and I think we were in that studio for at least 2 hours that night. Now, by the time that it actually got here, it had lessened. But it was still a pretty gnarly storm. I remember driving in town after I left the studio and seeing, like the way the sky is after a storm like that, like just kind of, it was just eerie. It was kind of eerie. But, then we started to get reports of what had actually happened in Joplin. And it was just horrific because I was born in that city. We moved really quickly after I was born in Joplin, but literally like the house I was born in had gone completely.
Damn.
My mom's best friend who lived in that town, their house was pretty much gone. But the crazy thing about the destruction in that place is you could, if you went to Joplin within a week or so after the effects of that tornado, that storm, you could see the path of it. How it went through that entire town, and it was just like,
unbelievable.
You couldn't. It really felt like post-war, post-apocalyptic. Wow. Like I'd seen storm damage before, but nothing on the level of this ever in my life. And I think everyone is going to have their own story about it. We actually had a band at the time called the Airwalks that were supposed to play a show at the Blackthorn in Joplin a week after this happened, right? So like storm happens, give it a day. I call the owners like 2 days later. I'm like, hey, we totally understand if you guys don't want to
cancel.
No, we need it. We need to do it. So we end up playing that show like 4 or 5 days after.
Life must go on.
What was crazy was the town was just complete. Like downtown Joplin was okay. Like where we played was fine.
Right.
But like going in and out of that town, it was just black. Like nothing.
Yeah, insanity.
Like driving through fields in Kansas.
Crazy.
Was such a weird deal. But anyway, when we come back, we'll talk about some of the crazy stories we heard from this documentary on Netflix, The Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.
Dark Side of the Stream, Mike the Intern and Jay Stevens. Watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio. This is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 226. The Joplin tornado documentary.
Twister, Caught in the Storm?
On Netflix.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Do you, as a kid from California, Hawaii, and then a part of your life in New Orleans, you only dealt with, like, tsunamis and earthquakes and stuff like that?
Yeah, hurricanes, tsunami warnings out there. Obviously, when I was in New Orleans, the whole Katrina thing, that was pretty major. We had, the only thing similar was a hurricane had nailed Kauai once. It just hit the outside lane, bam, ripped it, and then somebody had flown our band out there. We were like the first band to play since after that happened. It was kind of a similar thing, I guess, to you guys coming in Airwalks, and like the town came out and like it was the first big celebration.
Well, I was like, what? No one's gonna be there. And then, but no, I was wrong.
That's what they say. Like, life has to go on.
Yeah, you gotta find ways. It's like work, helping heartbreak through
like
work.
Saturday Night Live after 9/11. Like they were like, should we do it? Should we not do it?
Yeah.
But you gotta
find
but this
ways.
documentary was crazy eye-opening. Just the speed and the unknowingness, and then all of a sudden it's here. Like it was pretty crazy, Like it wasn't like, oh, we can see it coming, guys. It was like people were just chilling.
Well, and you can see it, especially in this part of the country where it's going to be a severe weather day. And you know that it's going to happen in the afternoon, but then and how quickly it can go from like 85 and then it just drops to the 60s, and you're like, oh, that's not good. And then you look at the color of the sky and it's like green.
Well, and the stories from these people in the documentary, it's like when you first had that one kind of wild character guy, and you're like, why are they interviewing this guy? And then later you find out, oh, that's why they were interviewing this guy. Like, holy cow.
But he's one of hundreds, if not thousands, of people that probably have very similar experiences.
This dude got floated and flown around in it, man.
I mean, and you see those videos there was an incredible amount of footage from this, personal and otherwise. But it reminded me of that video, that viral video is going around kind of earlier this year of that like Ford F-150, or maybe it was I think it was a Dodge Ram getting caught, flipped, turned up in the air, and then lands, and it was just like drives off, and then they ran the Dodge trucks, but it was a legit.
That should be an ad for Dodge trucks.
Hell, yeah, dude, I will buy the rights to that and play it every day forever. Like, but then again, it's it's those are the hard. Being in a car, like I've been in a car where our car got completely totaled from hail and wind damage during a storm like that in the middle of Kansas, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, I was literally
just got to sit there and take it
over. I was covering everyone in the car and just getting pelted with glass shards because it was going through the glass. We're talking like softball size hail.
Oh my gosh!
I literally had a hole in the windshield that was like the size of a quarter. And I went, looked through that hole, got off the highway. I want to say we were close to Colby, Kansas, because we were going to Colorado. And I stopped off. It was a weekend. I was like, hey, any chance I can get this windshield fixed today? They're like, bro, it's going to be Monday. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not staying in Colby, Kansas for the weekend. So got back on the interstate and drove from Colby, Kansas to Colorado Springs with a quarter hole in the windshield going 75 down the highway.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So again, those are like being at home when stuff like this happens. Like, hopefully you got a basement or a plan. Get in the bathroom. Get in the middle of the house. Get in the bathtub, whatever. But like being in a car, you're screwed.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, dude.
Yeah, you're really screwed. We'll be back next to talk more about being caught in the storm. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.
Dark Side of the Stream. Mike the Intern and Jay Stevens, watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave. Jay
Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream episode 226. Caught in the storm. Joplin tornado. Did I get it right this time?
No.
Damn. Well, it's on Netflix.
Twister.
Caught
in the Storm on Netflix.
I got it all.
I mean, Google, you can find it. You find it.
But it's definitely a very close and personal story to all of us. After that, just to toot our own horn, we mobilized as a radio group, and I think we filled
bunch of semis, right?
It was like 4 semis
with Convoy,
like
Convoy of Hope or something.
No, I think we rented. I think we got them ourselves, and everyone was doing it. Convoy, they do stuff, but they're like a major
scale
thing. Like hurricane hits Haiti and everyone's dying. Like those guys mobilized, they go there. This like was everyone, and again, like I mean, we were out in that parking lot for 5 days. I think that's when you didn't that how we.
No, I came here when I ran away from Katrina.
No, but didn't you stop by at something like that when we were doing something like that?
Yeah.
It was like a fundraiser?
It was a fundraiser for Katrina.
It was a Katrina
I was
fundraiser.
I was up here because I had came here to get away and figure out what I was going to do, and because I couldn't go back home.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a parking lot here at Battlefield Mall, and Shadow was there, and I went by and just hung out for a little while because they were, raising money for Katrina or whatever, and told my story, and then
really good thing
moved on.
Those are like the moments I'm proud of the most.
Yeah, those are some solid moments in radio
of what we're able to do, and what obviously the fans of the station and our listeners are able to do when we mobilize like that. That's a very, very big deal. But again, the loss of life, the loss of obviously property is something that you can rebuild, but it's definitely a really good reminder, especially at this time of the year, that when you hear those sirens going off,
get
in the basement, do something about it.
You do kind of go, sirens are going off again. That's not a big deal.
No,
that's what people do.
We get used to it. We get
same in New Orleans. So many hurricanes hurricane, and people would just, it's not coming. They get a bunch of booze and hang out in the house and wait for it to pass.
I can't even tell you how many times when I lived. I met one time when I was living on Sunset in college with a bunch of dudes. We had a tornado literally bearing down Sunset, and we ran outside with a bottle of tequila.
Go check it out, man.
Chase the tornado, man.
Yep.
Yeah, all the time. So stupid. But that was before I had kids. That was when I couldn't be killed.
Yeah, it changes your perspective a little bit.
Perspective about it. We'll be back to talk our reviews next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.
Dark Side of the Stream, Mike the Intern and Jay Stevens. Watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio one more time. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 226. Twister Caught in the Storm on Netflix.
We got it right.
Just took me 4 tries, and I finally got on the last one.
Can we mention that Tyler's wearing an awesome Motley Crue shirt today, by the way?
Yeah.
Dr. Feelgood cover.
Is that the new one you got? That's someone left on your desk?
That's a different. The mysterious shirt. Somebody gifted him.
Somebody's playing a joke.
The Motley Crue shirt fairy came in.
Gave him a Motley Crue shirt that he can't wear, which is so fitting for that band.
It's too small. He's so mad about it. Hanging on the wall.
You were just throw it in the trash. Either way, I would probably give this one a solid 4.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's good.
I mean, obviously,
it was great to see the insights and the cell phone footage.
The word great, I would say that it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
Because again, they did a really good job kind of collecting this stuff, getting all the stories, some of the storm chasers, some of the news people, some of the first responders,
the nerdy
some
news
of the people.
kid.
Yeah, there's a bunch of.
It was some great
really
stories that came out of it, man.
But again, it's a really good example of how the human experience is so different for everyone, and it could be the same thing happens to everyone. But then you have 1,000 different experiences.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about life. Even if it's bad like that, that's life. And there's no point in controlling it, and that's just the way it goes. Next week, my pick or your pick?
Was this one my pick?
I think this one's your pick.
So Either way, I think it was a joint pick.
This was a joint effort that we were wanting to wait till it came to streaming, and it finally is. It's Tom Petty's Beach Party.
A movie that my dad helped to make.
Yeah. And it's a really, really, really cool picture into that man and his band's era right around the mid-'80s.
Right when he first started blowing up huge.
Huge. Yeah. Like I really got on where he was going. And just stayed true to his roots. Really cool dude. Did you ever get to see him live?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
I was backstage.
Oh, God, I can't wait to talk about that. All right, that's next week. As always, watch us do this live on Facebook or YouTube every Thursday at 9 a.m., and then you can listen to it during my show at the same time, Jay's show at 6 p.m., or, of course, download these as a free podcast on our 104.7
Steal it from the internet.
Yeah, it's free. You don't have to steal it. We just give it away.
It's free on the internet.
As always, I'm Mike the Intern. That's Jay Stevens. We remind you, we watch
documentaries
movies,
so you don't have to.
Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.